any rate, welcome to everybody that's on. And for those of you who are wondering, I am not at Nolan's in Santa Ana because of the Wi-Fi signal issues that we had down there. They were very, very anemic, very small amount of wave, of actual bandwidth. And so we decided that I would just go ahead and do a live stream from here and then jump in my car and drive down to Santa Ana so I can meet those who wanted to come by today and be there at 11. So I am still going to be in Santa Ana for those of you who are planning on being down there. I'm going to take a few stickers and meet you folks and have some fun. So again, welcome to the Coffee and Cichlids. Big shout out to Candy and Dennis and GP and Kevin Green, my moderators. They are the best on YouTube. I always say that. I mean it. And also a big welcome to those of you in very far away places. Someone sent me a message. Hey, that start time is going to be 11 p.m. my time, but I'm not going to miss it. And so I thank those of you who get up at very weird hours. And I appreciate you doing that. I have a camera set up today. We'll call it the fish cam so that you can actually just look at the fish sometimes and instead of staring at my face. So if you notice a tripod over my right shoulder, that tripod that you see just over here, that's actually that tripod is the one that's actually working today as the fish cam. And so we'll call that the fish cam. So I want to thank those of you who super chatted last week. We had some great super chats that help support the channel, help support the ongoing things that I'm trying to do, and as well as upgrading the equipment and buying more stuff so I can get a better, sharper signal over to you. And so those of you who super chatted, and of course the largest super chat last week, received a nice box of plants. And I'll tell you what, just to kind of keep the game going, this week, the biggest super chat over $10 in the United States, because I can't ship abroad, it's ridiculous. But the biggest super chat in the U.S. over $10 this week. I'm going to go ahead and send you one of these. I'll send you a mug. I'll send you one of these mugs for the biggest super chat over $10 this week. Just send me your email if you do have the biggest super chat today over $10 and you're in the U.S. Send me your email to ben.o.cichlid and or send me your mailing address rather to ben.o.cichlid@gmail, and I'll go ahead and I'll get you one of these mugs. It's got the eye biter on this side. It's got the eye biter, and on this side it has the logo, which is actually the Taiwan reef in the tank behind me when he was a juvie. And everybody said he was juiced because he was so pretty. Nobody could believe it. So so let's go ahead and jump right in it here. And hey, Alan T, SRF, going for 2 Sun 302s for my 72. Okay, I think that's good, SRF. I've got two Sun 302s and a Marineland hang on back on my 60, and that tank is rock solid stable. I have, so let's get into what's been going on here. And what's been going on, I've had a few interesting, I've had a few videos. I went to a Petco, and the Petco in my old stomping grounds over in Glendale, California. And I was just blown away by the quality of the tanks, the health of the fish, and the way they had created these sort of tank towers with each one having its own dedicated sump system. And that video, the Petco crushes PetSmart. That one PetSmart that I went to was actually pretty nice, and I can't really rag on PetSmart overall. That other one that I went to in Monrovia was actually a real bad deal. But Let me take a look here, and I'll tell you that video, the Petco video, is at 6,500 views, which for my channel, that's actually pretty good. 6,500 views. Not as good as the PetSmart versus PetSmart. I think that's about 30,000 views now. And but at any rate, it's doing very, very well. And I was very, very impressed. I hope that this Petco is going to be the model that they're going to export to the other stores, and then PetSmart will catch on when they start seeing some of the revenue reports that Petco will put out about how they're making a lot more money out of their fish department because of that. And at the end of the day, that's really what drives all of it. That PetSmart versus PetSmart video, that's up around 36,000 views. So that's a real strong video for my channel. I don't, on just the day in, day out. So after that video, what I did is I did a report on a review on the Salifert. You know, this Salifert, you can see it right here, the Salifert test kit. I loved working with that test kit. It's very easy. It's good for folks who have perhaps some difficulty differentiating the subtleties of colors, things of that nature. And as I mentioned in an earlier video, my wife accuses me of being colorblind. So I try and wear black, which is easy, but sometimes the black thing I pick out is actually navy blue, and that just drives her point home. So at any rate, I loved working with the Salifert, and then that got me thinking, well, how does this compare? And some of you who watched that video actually mentioned it would be good to do some side-by-sides. You know, how does this compare? So, you know, I said, okay, good. Let's just take a look. Let's take a look at how this compares. So I had the 6-in-1 strips, and I had the API master kit. I had the CCAM kit, and I also had the CCAM nitrate test, and of course the Salifert. So on this video here, can I trust these? Man, oh man, I just had such a wide range of results. It was nuts. The range was like all over the place, and it was, not only was it all over the place, which made me wonder about the legitimacy of these tests, but it also got me a little alarmed about what was going on in my tanks, because the one consistent factor across all of the test results was that I had high nitrates. Now, what's high nitrates? What do you think is high nitrates? I've had some people say 100, 200, 300. I've seen studies where fish in farmed settings were in several hundred parts per million. So what is high nitrates, and is it something, do you think that that's something that over time is going to affect the fish? I mean, I heard so many varying comments under the video, under this should I be worried video. I mean, this was the thumbnail, but the title of the video was "Should I Be Worried?" And I heard things like, "Don't worry, look at your fish, keep doing what you're doing," and other folks that said, "Hey, look, I keep mine under 10." And in some cases, some people reported that they had 0, things of this nature. And so it just got the wheels turning in my head, and I came up with a variety of just a variety of thoughts, and I'll share those with you in a minute. For those of you that are wondering, I do not put alcoholic beverages in my coffee. Some of you have asked me about that. So here's what's coming up, and one of them that's coming up tomorrow that you see right here is beating nitrates. And the beating nitrates is going to deal with what my conclusions what my final thoughts were on all of the tests that I ran, and what at the end of the day did I come up with, and how am I actually going to address and deal with it. Then I've got a couple, a bit more of a lighthearted, a couple lighthearted videos coming out, and one of them is in visiting a PetSmart. I came across this large display of glowfish, and I had seen glowfish tetras before, but these were glowfish bettas, and admittedly they were very pretty, but what are the thoughts? What are your thoughts about these glowfish? I sort of put it out there, like, what do you folks think about these glowfish? And what is it something good? Is it bad? Are they going to live a shorter life? Are they in any kind of a distress because of what changes they have to go through to be able to glow like that? Anyway, so I talk about glowfish, a little bit of a rant on glowfish, and then I have a video called jerkfish, and I think we've all had a jerkfish at some point, and I've certainly had some jerkfish. And if you've had a jerkfish, I'd love to hear about it. Go ahead and just put it in the chat here. Have you had a jerkfish? And do you have a jerkfish right now? I'd like to hear about it. I have a jerkfish, and the video is going to concentrate on the tank that's behind me here, that you can see here in the tank cam. It's going to concentrate on the jerk that is currently in this tank, and it's not the jerk that you think it is. Boy, look at that! Look at that trout. That trout's got to be pushing maybe 9 inches, maybe more. Picked him up from Trevor O'Shea at the Wonder of Cichlids. Just an absolute beast. Actually, as long as the Venusis that you see going across the screen, just certainly not as aggressive. Now, for those of you who came on, late, and those of you who had to go through the 4 live streams and finally got it to work. The reason I'm not at Nolan's is that we concluded that he had a weak signal, and so I'm doing the live stream from home, and then I'm jumping in my car and going to Nolan's to be able to meet you folks down there, and be able to keep my promise to show up at Nolan's. And I'm also going to take him. And I guess this is a little bit of bad news. I hate to give you bad news, but I'm going to be shutting down the Hawk Hotel, and maybe they were going to breed, maybe not. I don't know, but I need that tank. And what I'm going to do, and again, this is a little bit of bad news, I guess. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put that beautiful male hawk back in the 100. Gorgeous male hawk that I picked up from James over at the Cichlid Shack. Just a gorgeous male. I'm going to put him back in the 100, and I'm going to take that Star Sapphire, who continues to look a bit emaciated. He's eating well, he's swimming well, but he just looks like he's falling apart. His belly continues to be caved in, despite a couple rounds, very expensive rounds of Metro and Focus that I did on the tank, including a prior round a few weeks before that of, I did some API General Cure, and nothing's changed. All the other fish look great, but he continues to look emaciated. His fins don't look good. I don't want to euthanize him. He may be just a fish that genetically is a bit deformed. Maybe he has a little bit of, fish tuberculosis or something, or some kind of a condition genetically. Perhaps he's being heavily harassed when I'm not looking because I don't see him harassed, but yet he has some splitting in his fins, and his concave stomach isn't changing, while all the other fish around him are thriving. So he has something that is obviously affecting him, including some light spots, not fungus, not colomaris, not ick, just some areas where he rubs against rocks sometimes. So he's got something going on, and I'm going to isolate him in the 30-gallon. I'm probably going to do one more round of Metro and see if that helps him. But I'm going to leave him alone for a while. Just put him alone in the 30 and see if he starts to actually bounce back. If not, what I'm probably going to end up having to do is just go ahead and just let him live his life in there. And I'm not going to flush him. I'm not going to euthanize him or bang him against or all those clover oil him or whatever it is that people do sometimes when they want to kill a fish. I'm not going to do that. I'll just let him live his life in the 30 and try my best to rehabilitate him. And if I can, I can. But so I suspect there's a genetic anomaly with that fish, and it is what it is. So that's the deal with the Hawk Hotel. The Hawk Hotel is going to be going out of business, and so do you folks like this fish cam? You folks like looking at the fish with the fish cam? I know some people. I know some saltwater people have an app and a cam on their tank, so at 24/7 from anywhere on their phone, they can actually see what's going on in their saltwater tank. So at any rate, I'm going to I'll be going back and forth with that fish cam. So today's topic, I will always be learning. This topic came about in my mind because of the recent experiences with the test kits and things of that nature. And if you ever get to a point, and you take this however you want to take it. It's not intended to be a dig or a slight on anybody. It's more about me than about you. But if you ever feel confident, and this is just based on my experience, if you ever feel confident, like you've got it all wired, like that's it, I've hit the pinnacle, and I've got it down, and everything is dialed in perfectly, that's usually the time where you start to head towards a problem. My conclusion in this whole experience is that you always have to be alert. You always have to be not to the point where you have anxiety and you're obsessed and worried, because worry and anxiety, they never really solve any problems. All they do is elevate your blood pressure and probably shorten your life. What I'm talking about is just be sharp. Just always be sharp. And I had fallen into a routine. I tried to solve a problem, and the solution created a new problem. That's my conclusion on the whole thing. I tried to solve a problem of my fish flashing and scraping, scratching themselves against rocks and substrate after a water change by reducing the amount of water change. So I went from a 50, 60%, sometimes 70% water change to a 20% water change. And what ended up happening is, and this makes sense if you're thinking about it in a more dynamic, more of a fluid way. If you're thinking about it more, I don't know how to put it, maybe three-dimensionally. If you're thinking, as your fish grow, and as you add stock, you're going to increase. You're going to start to stress and increase the bioload. It just makes sense. Even if you don't add any fish, if your fish just continue to put on size and weight and produce more waste, and you change your, let's say you change your feeding, which I did. I went from a once a day feeding to a twice a day feeding in an effort, in my mind, in an effort to get them perhaps a bit less aggressive and calm them down a little bit. And so I went to so I increased the amount of food. I decreased the percentage of water changes. Now, looking back on hindsight, a decreased percentage of water changes is not entirely a bad idea if you're going to have a pH, let's say a pH shift that stresses or shocks your fish. However, if you go from a 60% to a 30%, maybe you should then do 2 30% changes a week instead of 1 30, going from 60 to 30 a week. Go from the 60% water change to 2 30% water changes a week. That maybe would have made more sense, and it would have stayed to some degree consistent with what I was doing, because I was having success. The fish were looking good at 50, 60% water changes. So at any rate, what's been my conclusion? Well, part of my conclusion involves looking at the fish. At the end of the day, you have to look at your fish and go, do these fish look like they're dying or stressed out or in some kind of trouble? Am I seeing the indicators in my fish that would tell you that there's something wrong? So no, the answer to that was no. I mean, I do have that one anomaly with that star sapphire, which I think is some kind of a genetic anomaly, something going on, something that is fortunately apparently not contagious, but going on with that one fish. But so you have to look at the fish. You have to see how they're behaving. You have to look at the certain indicators or flags, and for me that wasn't that. I didn't see negative indicators. But let's consider this. And you tell me, if you're a scientist out there and you really know water chemistry, not something you picked up from some YouTuber like me or something, but you really know water chemistry. Nitrate is acid. It's as far as I know, right? It's nitric acid. So is it entirely possible that if you allowed nitrates to gradually increase over time and you didn't do anything about it, you were not testing your water, you felt you have it all wired, isn't it possible that at some point that level of nitric acid, the nitrates, would actually cause a pH crash in your tank? Is that possible? Do you know for a fact that that's possible? You hear of people saying, and if I had $1 for every person who's told me everything was great, all my water parameters were perfect, I woke up this morning, half my tank is in distress and the other half is dead. And that probably was a crash of some kind, quite possibly a pH crash. And that's with water looking pristine. And 24 hours before that, when the person went to bed, all the fish were healthy and looked great. And the next morning, half the tank is dead, the other half is gasping for air or, swimming upside down. And so if you know about this, and that calls into question, well, would 80 to 100, 150, 180, 200, how high can these nitrates get? And at what point would you worry or be concerned about some type of a pH crash or any kind of a crash? So it's got my wheels turning. It's got me thinking. It's got me looking. And I'll tell you, Some of you, and I heard this in the comments under the videos, some of you don't test. Some of you don't test your water. And I had gotten that way. I'd gotten a little lazy, right, and test. I mean, at least not regularly, right? And because everything looked good, everything was fine. So my takeaway is this: every few months, if you don't want to test, that's your call. You run your tank the way you want to run your tank. But for me, every few months, I'm probably going to at least pull out some strips and dip some strips in the tanks and just take a look. And if some parameter, some indicator, some reading is off, I'm going to use those strips like the way you would use a bird dog. I'm not going to panic. I'm not going to run into a lot of different directions and worry and have an anxiety attack. I'm just going to go, all right, something's going on. Let me look into it. I'm going to use it as a bird dog, as a pointer that says, take a look. Now, certainly if I have ammonia at 0.5 or 1 or nitrite, I mean, that stuff kills. That requires, but if I see nitrates creeping up, I see my hardness not as hard as I would like it to be, and things of this nature, I would take a look. Maybe replace the crushed coral I have in the fluval, which is adding minerals to the 100. For example, if my hardness was getting a little, of course, here in Southern California, we have liquid rock coming out of our taps. Southern California is sort of an ideal place for cichlid keepers because you get very, very hard water out of the tap with very high mineral contents, and you can see that in the amount of plumbing issues people have out here. Their solution is they add water softeners, and where I live right now had a water softener, which I had disconnected because I didn't want, I want hard water coming out of the tap. So, and I don't like taking a shower in soft water. It just feels like you're. I mean, this is just me. It feels like you're showering in a little bit of a slime coat, and I don't need a slime coat. All right. So let's get into some of the Q&A. And if I've missed any super chats, I apologize. I have not been looking at the chat. I try not to look at the chat because it can actually be a little bit of a distraction for me. And let's take a look here. Aquador Deep, crap, I'm out of coffee. That's a 911, Aquador. Here at my house, if we're out of coffee, that's a 911. Yeah. Aquaballs, you're coming over to Santa Ana? Be sure to tell me your aquaballs. Identify yourself with your YouTube name. And all right. And let's see here. Rep Sedge 74, good evening from Copenhagen. Hello, Copenhagen. All right. Aquador Deep, Denmark. Hello, Denmark. And let's see here. Aquaballs. We talked for 30 minutes and I didn't even know you were Ben. I had my sunglasses and hat on. Let's see here. Neil from the UK. Hello, Neil. Let's see here. Troy at VSC, I think you should do your live streams outside just to make everyone jealous of the gorgeous weather we are having. It is beautiful outside. It's blue, it's crystal clear blue. The evenings get to a chilly 45, which those of you in Wyoming and Chicago are probably laughing at me. But yeah, it has been very nice out here. I'm wearing a t-shirt. I'm going to go out in this t-shirt. That tells you all you need to know. And let's see here. I am going through the comments right now, and Aquaballs liked the video where I visited Petco in Glendale. Yeah, that Petco blew me away. It was awesome. The only complaint I had was nobody came over to help me, but it was very easy to find someone. They had employees milling around, and maybe they saw that I had my camera going, and so they stayed away from me. Oh, God. Tejas Rob, I love that eye biter. Yeah, that eye biter, he's something. He is something. I agree. And there he is. There he is on the fish cam. I love that eye biter. And again, I picked him up from the I picked him up from the Cichlid Shack. And he doesn't mess with that Venusis. And he did for a while take over, but the Venusis came back strong, all bruised and beat up. He kind of went in his corner and got refreshed, and then came back in the ring and delivered a whooping to that eye biter. It was really something out of Rocky. Let's see here. I'm having issues getting a full cycle with Purigen SRF. Well, if you listen to the Pond Guru, who, by the way, is still trying to get a video to me, we're in email contact. And Richard Through, the Pond Guru, and I are in email contact. We're still trying to get a video sent over. He keeps running into problems. He keeps not liking it. So don't give up. You're going to see Pond Guru here. But he says do not use Purigen to get that cycle. He says pull it out. And but you also have to have enough of the product of the BioHome, and it is a lot of BioHome. I mean, like kilos and kilos, something like, I don't know, 1 kilo for every 15 gallons of water? 1 kilo for every 15? I mean, you can check with him. He will respond to email. You can also call him. And SEK comes in with a super chat. Thank you, SEK. Much appreciated, my friend. And if you are in the U.S. and you have the biggest super chat, please email your mailing address, name and address, to ben.o.cichlid, and I will send you a mug. The biggest super chat over $10 today gets a mug. And let's see here. I am looking at the comments. Now, somebody mentioned that the Saliford test that I used was for salt water. I checked on that, and I saw plenty reports and instances of the Saliford being used in fresh water. So I believe that it is fine. And SRF says, I hate nitrate test kits. I'm going to share something with you. And again, this is not going to make me popular, but I don't have a YouTube channel necessarily to be popular with retailers. I grew up in the 60s, and and in the 60s, and maybe even after that, you kind of grew up with a suspicion of the man, of big business. You come up with these suspicions, and I got into this discussion with a couple folks that commented under the "Should I Be Worried?" Alarming test result video that I released recently, and I got into this with somebody that in the back of my mind, there's this little dark corner in the back of my mind thinking, these companies like, I'm not going to name any API, some of these companies also sell all of these water conditioners and things. And so if they could create a sky is falling, a a sense of exasperation or anxiety in the mind of the fish keeper, they're probably going to sell more water conditioners, more, more medications, more this, more that. So, here I am, the I'm putting on my conspiracy theorist. Part of this is those of you who are close to me in age, and you remember the concept called planned obsolescence. And planned obsolescence was a strategy that apparently was uncovered in the auto industry, where they were making the vehicles just good enough so that they would last a certain amount of time and not beyond that, and that they would break down so that they could make a lot of money in the parts department. Parts and service is where the auto industry makes its money. The margins on selling cars apparently is not that big. Where they make their money is in the aftermarket parts and service. So so someone uncovered this thing called planned obsolescence, and what happened, of course, is that the Japanese then came in and basically said, we don't use planned obsolescence, and all of a sudden, Toyota takes over a huge segment of the market, and the American car makers were like, gee, what happened? Well, you shouldn't have done planned obsolescence. Your car's lost a lot of cred. And the Japanese came in, and all of a sudden you have a Toyota running around with 250,000 miles on it, and it's running as good as it was running when it was brand new. So at any rate, they paid the price for that. So this created this idea in my mind that maybe some of these test kits are pushing us in the direction of having to go out and buy more stuff. And I hope I'm wrong, and I hope that isn't some kind of an agenda. But that came up in the conversations under the video, and I hope that that's not the case. But let's take a look here at some more of your comments. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chats. The chats are actually working here. And Rocket Rod 56, that was yet another good video. Ben reassured me that I'm not nuts. You know how many people commented under that video? The timeliness, because they were going crazy with their test results. And to me, that's just not fair. Some people actually sent test results out to labs and did things of this nature. And some people have situations where they were getting well water that was pure and pristine, and yet their API test results were like at 100 or 80. And then some of them sent them out to labs and found that their actual nitrates were at 5, and in some cases 10. Anyway, it's just not okay. And Philly Man Pete, let me see here. Philly Man Pete, exactly what are high nitrates? All right. Well, Unfiltered Aquarius, honestly, I think high nitrates is relative to what type of the tank you have also. That's a good point. I mean, if you have a very heavily planted tank with, some community fish in it, maybe some invertebrates, or maybe some shrimp and some snails, and it's heavily planted, you need some nitrates. You need some CO2. You need some of the stuff that us folks who can't have planted tanks worry about. Also, African cichlids are notorious for just being massive ammonia factories. I mean, they are just pumping it out from their skin, from their gills. They're just constantly pumping out ammonia. And yeah, that's a very, very good point. A very good point. And let's see here, Jennifer. I saw something from Jennifer. I can pull it back up here. Oh, I lost it. I'm looking at your comments. Jennifer Long, the Seachem Title 75 filter HOB is fantastic. I love it. Filtered it with Biohome and Pinky Floss on top. Keeps my very overstocked nano tank, 36-gallon crystal clear. Well, there you go. There's a plug for the Seacam Tidal 75. I have not used any of the Tidal products. I hear good things about them. Sharpies, models, and aquatics. High nitrates in the 100 plus range. He considers, I guess, over 100 high. Below that is pretty much safe, especially if your fish are used to it. And that's another aspect of the conversation that we need to get into. What have your fish acclimated to over time? And if you take very broad and drastic actions, are the broad and drastic actions going to actually stress your fish more than if you just sort of let things go and maybe did a very slow, gradual movement in the direction that you want to go? Big water changes, adding buffers, even adding things like salt, medication, all these things stress your fish. So we have to create a balance between the stress we're creating and and what we're trying to go after. I put out a video a while back, Stop Chasing pH. People who were using chemical or buffering agents, trying to get the pH just right. How do you dial it in? How do you measure how much you should put in after a certain water change? I mean, are you going to be precise? I just said, hey, look, these fish, if it's done gradually, will accumulate. They will acclimate. And so we have to, in our minds, come up with a strategy that is going to be not hard on the fish. So Texas Rob, I quit testing water years ago, but then I was keeping Oscars, which I'm convinced could live in a vat of acid. I do not suggest that you put that to the test, but they're really hardy. Probably like goldfish. Goldfish can take a lot. Black skirt tetras. I've heard black skirt tetras actually recommended when you want to use a fish cycle. When you want to cycle a new tank, they say throw in some black skirt tetras. They can pretty much take anything. They'll produce the ammonia and allow you to then get up into ammonia production, nitrite production, and eventually cycle the tank so it's ready for fish. Then you scoop up your black skirt tetras and you take them back to the fish store. And maybe you could do that with Oscars too, who knows? And Mr. B's, Fish and Things, shared out on FishTuber's notification. Thank you, Mr. B's. I appreciate all of you who share this live stream. I also appreciate all of you who have to deal with a sketchy start, log out, log in, log out, and then ultimately find me on YouTube. Oh, God. SRF has a yellow lab jerkfish. SRF, I had a yellow lab, and I loved that fish. He was so fun to watch. He used to dig and make pits and carry big pieces of crushed coral around the tank. But when he got big, oh, my goodness. I had some peacocks. I had a mixed tank, and he just went nuts. And, the whole 60-gallon was his territory. And the only one that was more psycho was a Pseudotropheus. I had a Pseudotropheus, and this fish was gorgeous. Well, the Pseudotropheus and the Oratus. Boy, oh boy. Batshit crazy. All right, let's see here. Sun704B versus the HW3000. I'm going to try and get somebody to send me a 3000. I could probably help them sell a lot of them if they could. If you folks know a vendor that wants to get a plug on YouTube, give them my name and have them send me a 3000. I'll do a test on it. And I'd love to get my hands on one of those. And it looks like someone else has a jerkfish. I'm not going to tell you who my jerkfish is. You're going to have to watch the video. It's coming out next week. And some of you probably already guessed who my jerkfish is. Mr. Bees, doesn't everybody have a jerkfish? There are some, again, some planted community tanks that don't have a jerkfish. And I think that's good. And Sharpie Models and Aquatics, I had an angel. Angels are not angels. I mean, that name is probably based more on the way they look, not based on their behavior. They are, the angels I've had have been nasty little buggers, and beautiful. I had some beautiful angels at one point, with long, lacy fins, and some of them, had fry, they bred, and they were beautiful, but man, oh man, they can be jerks. John Q, Dirt Ramper, a dragon blood that keeps half the tank to himself. Right now he is in a timeout, but possibly headed back to the local fish store. Timeouts don't seem to work. I've never had a timeout work. When they come back, they sort of pick up where they left off. And that's been my experience with timeouts. But at any rate, yeah, and I'm not surprised. I mean, dragon bloods are a hybrid, and you have some, you have some species in there that are going to be a little wild. Don Gallagher has a male Severum. That's his jerkfish. I got it. Candy telling me that the Cichlid Shack was in the house. Hey, James, if you're around, I was bragging about you. I was bragging about that monster eye biter you sent me. Chris, been running your streams in the background today to give you a few more hours, bud. Thank you, Chris. Be sure to watch all the ads. Oh God, I love it. I love it. Okay, let's see here. I'm gonna have to get rolling here. My jerkfish, Aqua Seekin. Jerkfish is deceased. Well, I don't know. Should we be sad, or was that a good thing, Aqua Seekin? I mean, has anyone had a fish that when it finally died, you were kind of, and I hate to seem cold or cruel, but when a fish finally passes, you kind of go, okay, good. The jerkfish that you're going to hear about in the tank behind me in the upcoming video, he's so beautiful. I'm not going to take him back to I'm not going to give him to a local fish store. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to figure out how to, because he's so damn beautiful. So, I mean, maybe you can guess which one he is in here. Maybe you can guess which one's the jerk, but he's, I'm not gonna trade him. I'm not gonna send him anywhere. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna figure out how to live with him, because he's just too pretty, Tejas Rob, multi-tank addiction. I am a recovering multi-tank addict. Well, Tejas Rob, the first step is being able to admit it, and I you've got 11 more steps to go, but thank you for coming forward. Oh, God. Rianne, hey, Ben, I'm here to convert you over to a planted community aquarium. You don't have to sell me too hard. I love that idea. And I've been watching some videos on YouTube of folks who have tanks that are just planted. They have no filtration. They just have plants doing all the, all of the filtering and some snails and I think they're beautiful. I think they're gorgeous. And some people have duckweed that they have in a floating ring. Have you seen that? With the duckweed that they keep in a floating ring in the middle. It's just so aesthetic, so beautiful. And when I move, we're going to be moving to Nashville. When I move, I'm probably going to be starting a planted tank project. So stay tuned for that. But you don't have to work too hard to sell me. And Let me see. Sharpies, models, and aquatics. My favorite troublemaker. I've never meant to upset anybody either, but I have attracted a few minor trolls. Um, hey, welcome to being out there, Sharpies. You put something out there, you're going to find detractors. I mean, that's the way it is. You know, I'll post a video. I'll post a video that's 20 minutes long. And 3 minutes after posting it, which means that it's impossible that anybody could have watched it, it has one or two thumbs down. What that means is that there's some trolls out there who are who have notifications on, so they know when I post, and they come and they thumbs down and they leave. And of course, like I've said before, in the end, the joke is sort of on them, because every thumb down or up is read by the YouTube algorithm as a view, as a visit, and it raises the video in the popularity and in the algorithm. So it's sort of, as YouTubers with trolls, you end up having the last laugh, really. But it's just funny to me that somebody would take the time to have notifications on so they can rush over and give a thumbs down, and then go off and not even look at the video. So anyway, if you put it out there, if you put yourself out there, you're going to get that kind of stuff going on. That goes without saying. So at any rate, I want to thank those of you who are on the stream, and those of you who super chatted, and those of you who have given me a thumbs up today, and those of you who shared. I really appreciate all of that from you. And bottom line on today's stream is I'm always going to be learning. I'm always going to be never thinking that I've got it wired, because I tell you, it's that sort of pride before the fall, if that's how the saying goes. And I'm going to be moving in the direction of larger water changes, less feeding, and not every day obsessively, but periodic water tests that I'm going to use only as an indicator or a bird dog to point me in the direction of some area that I should look in. But I am not, if you remember my 10 tips video, that one with the 350,000 views on it, I am not going to get myself worked up. I'm not going to get into a state of high anxiety. I'm not going to beat myself up as the worst fish keeper in the world. I'm just going to stay calm and fish on, and keep doing what I'm doing, and use other indicators like looking at my fish, looking at their finnage, their color, their activity, and things of that nature. And I hope that this live stream helps you to be a better fish keeper. This helps me because I get to vent the stuff, read your comments, and as I'm doing that, I'm learning, and I'm having wheels turning, and I'm having things come together that hadn't come together before. And that is so important to me as a fish keeper, to get all of I have people who've been keeping fish for 50 years, 60 years, commenting on my videos and talking to me about their undergravel filtration and their steel frames and their steel frame tanks. And I love listening to these folks talk, because they bring to the table, all these hundreds of combined years of experience. And then you fit that into the current marketing strategy of people that are trying to sell us products. And somewhere in there, we try and find the truth, right? And so at any rate, with that in mind, I'm going to jump in my car and I'm going to go down to Santa Ana to visit Nolan's. And I hope to see you there if you're in the area. Thank you so much for tuning in, my friends. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. Thank you to those of you who super chatted and helped support the channel. And be sure to send me your mailing address. If you had if you were the biggest super chat over $10, I'm going to send you a mug. And that's it for me, my friends. Watch my video tomorrow. It talks some more about what I'm talking about here. All right. And that's it. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.